And there you have it, Hofun in egg sauce. Hi everyone, welcome to Benjineer's cooking channel. Today I'm going to make the Cantonese fried Hofun in egg sauce. Breasts. We need roughly 1 kilo of the stir-fried Hofun. We need 1 bunch of choi. If you can be bothered making your own chicken stock, you can make your own one, or you can just buy a can. We need 2 eggs, a couple of cloves of garlic. I always add chili because chili makes everything taste better. And of course there's some side ingredients which are not shown. I understand most kitchens will have it. We need a little bit of sugar, salt, cornstarch or tapioca flour, and soy sauce and white pepper. So let me go through each of these ingredients and how to prep them. With the Hofun, make sure that you actually shred them into individual pieces because that will help the cooking process, so they're not bundled up, so you get stuff half cooked. Once that is done with the chicken, depending on where you buy your chicken, if you had it defrosted or fresh, if it's defrosted, my recommendation is before you dice them, put half a teaspoon of salt and then just soak it in room temperature water for 15-20 minutes. The function of that is just, if you've frozen the chicken, it will actually just draw out some of the ice flavor. Now choi is a relatively sandy vegetable, so you have to soak them in water and let all the sand kind of drift out. Just push them down a bit and let it soak for, I don't know, 10 minutes or so. When the 10 minutes or so is up, just make sure that you don't pick up the bottom of the sand, so you just kind of wiggle the veggies and pick them up bit by bit, so you don't just get sand back on the veggies. Now remember, we soaked this chicken. We can now just pour away the water. And one very important part of this process is you can either let the chicken dry in a strainer, or if you don't really have time to wait for it, is make sure that the chicken is quite dry before you cut it and marinate it. The marinade really only goes in if the chicken is relatively dry, otherwise it won't really marinate. How dry does it need to be? You'll kind of know. If you use kitchen paper, the chicken will feel like it wants to stick to the kitchen paper, and that's when you know it's dry enough. Now we'll cut the chicken into sizable portions. There's no real size. I generally like them a bit chunkier because they shrink in size as you cook them. So maybe something slightly larger than the size of your thumb, I think will be adequate. As for marinade, it's fairly simple for chicken. Just put maybe half a teaspoon of salt. And you should know it's quite dry as you stir it, because there shouldn't be any water coming out of this. And when the salt has been thoroughly mixed in, put in half a teaspoon of cornstarch or tapioca, and this really locks the flavour in. You can also add a little bit of cooking oil. That will also help retain the moisture within the chicken when you cook it. Now we will prep the other ingredients. Garlic is really up to you how much you want to put in. The rule is it's never enough garlic, right? So up in there we'll dice them. They don't have to be too fine, just enough to bring out the flavour when you cook them. So what we need to do is pre-prepare, I'm using a teaspoon at the moment, but you probably need around 5 to 6 teaspoons of cornstarch thicken up the sauce a bit later, and then maybe just fill this in maybe with half a bowl of water. Now to choi some, you can prep them. It's relatively simple. All you need to do is separate the leaves and the stem. And the stem, I will separate them again into their halves, around this size. And the leaves, you can cut them in half again if you want. So now we have all the ingredients prepped. So let's get cooking now on the stove. You know when the wok is roughly ready when you get a bit of smoke coming out? So this is when you add a little bit of oil. And because we're cooking a kilo of Hofun, I would recommend not to cook all 1 kilo in this wok because the wok won't be able to handle it with a home kitchen. So I'll just throw half. Just let it sit, don't be tempted to stir it around yet. Leave it on high heat. Spread it out a bit. Stir fry the other side and do the same thing. Remember not to try to shove it and try to break the Hofun. What the Chinese restaurant used to do is they stir fry it with chopsticks. So if you use the chopsticks, it's a bit harder to break the Hofun, but you can still break them apart. And when they're nearly ready, what you do is to add a little bit of base flavour. And what I mean by that is keeping the flame on high heat. You add roughly a teaspoon of soy sauce and add it onto the side of the wok. That will give it an enhanced flavour rather than just pouring it on top of the noodles. As you do that, add a little bit of water on the side. Not much. And what that does is it gives a bit of moisture to the Hofun. Wok is nicely seasoned, it should be relatively clean, it shouldn't have any residue stuck. One thing I really want to point out is if you cooked it just right and adding the water and the soy sauce at the last minute, the Hofun should be quite soft and should be quite elasticy. So you can see here, that has that elasticity. So that's the texture that you want when you eat it. When you cook meat, you must always have it on high heat if you're stir frying, because if you cook on low heat, it's just going to boil the meat and you'll lose all the juices. Oh, by the way, I also made this today, but that's for another episode. And then let's add the chicken. This is the sound that you need to hear. Nice browning. So what we try to do is brown both sides just to lock in the flavour. This is my favourite part. You add a bit of Chinese cooking wine. You always add it to the side of the wok because that immediately gives you the flavour. How you can stir. Now we can add in the chicken stock. That's why it's very important to have that chicken stock quite hot, so you can bring this back up to the boil relatively quickly. Before I add the water to this dish, I'm going to transfer this over. So this part is not really necessary, but sometimes I'm a little bit picky. I like to stir fry my vegetables before I throw it in. Remember before I broken up the choi sum into stalks portion and leaf portion, so now I'll throw all the stalks in first. You're adding your garlic now. And add the rest. And the stock back in here. And I'm going to top it up with water. And then this is where you add the white pepper. Give it a good stir. Just make sure this is stirred very well. There's no lumps. You're in big trouble if you don't do that. It's quite smooth now. Now, when adding the cornstarch, don't add everything in at once. Slowly. Rule is always slowly. Put a little bit in, stir. Because it will thicken up very quickly. Add a little bit in, stir. So you already start that the sauce is thickening up. In engineering terms, this is called viscosity. So it's becoming more viscous, and you can tell. And this is very important because this is how the sauce clings onto your noodles. What you do with the egg is I like to put it like this, and let the egg run down your chopsticks. The more streaks the better, but don't stir the wok while you put the egg in. I like to separate the noodles and the sauce and only put it on when I eat it. So just get a new plate and then serve her up. And there you have it, Hofun in egg sauce.